Welcome to step 3 of my Soundtrap tutorial where we build Three Little Birds by Bob Marley. The next step in my process is to finish building out at least another portion of the 4-bar intro here, and this is a quick and easy build. We're going to add a new track and we're going to choose the electric bass. I don't know if you saw me, I moved really quickly there, but I added a new track. It was under guitar and bass. And the default, not unfortunately, it's not that big a deal, but it goes to guitar, so we're going to have to choose electric bass manually. And the metric here is that we need an electric bass sound that sounds good where 4/16 notes are played in a row. So that is not a great candidate. This first one is maybe too muddy. Here's something that I think is a little bit too articulate. This is even more articulate. Billy Rocca, I'm not a fan of. It's too wet. Bone bass is actually a great one. But I have searched through a lot of these, and what I'm looking for is the hoodie bass, personally speaking. It's sort of a combination of articulation and a little bit of resonance, which is what I love. And I will show you how to sequence this in, but I'm also going to talk about playing this in. I'm going to just move this to the center of your screen. So I'm basing this off of C1. C is the root of the first chord here. It's the lowest note in the chord. And this rhythm starts as eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's our first entire measure. C, 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 all eighth notes. And 4 and. So if we were to play that in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, we can play that in. But let's sequence this in also, just because I know not everyone has a piano to play in on. So here's C1, and I'm going to be working in eighth notes here. So just want to make sure that that is what it needs to be. All right, so these are, I don't know if you can see this, but beat 2 is over here. So in order for this to be an eighth note, it's going to be located right here. And by the way, if you don't want to continue doing the pencil option on these, you can just copy and paste them in. So I've got this one highlighted. I can just hit copy. And also I can find, let's see, so it goes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it needs to be on the and of 3. Here's 3. Here's the and of 3. You can see my cursor locks right into that. That note is going to need to be an E1. Actually, it's G1. Forgive me. Okay, so it's going to go G1. I can place my cursor on beat 4 and 4. This one needs to be E1. And then my last one is on the and of 4, and that is going to also need to be G1. So I've got C, 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 G1, E1, and G1. Okay, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if you remember just from a few seconds ago, the next part of this was 4/16 notes on beat 1. I'm actually going to extend this region here, and I'm going to show you a little trick. I've got my 3/8 notes here. I'm going to copy those and go to beat 1 of the second measure. Now these are the right length for 16th notes, but they're just not 16th notes. If I copy these first 2/8 notes, or the first 2/16 notes spaced 8th notes apart, I can paste them. I'll do that again for you. I copied, highlighted over, Command C or Control C for your computer if you're on a Windows-based computer, and I'm putting this on the E of beat 1, and you can see it pastes right in between. It maintains the spacing. So just listen to this. You will hear my original efforts here. So I prefer that these sounds right here are a little bit shorter. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to blow this up to make it easier for you to see. I've highlighted all 4 of these sounds, but I'm just going to trim one of them back, just the teeniest little bit, and you can see it makes it uniformly shorter for all of them. And that should have a much more articulate sound on those notes. a little bit too articulate. Maybe if we just make it a 16th note length. I'm sort of cheating here because my mouse isn't really behaving. We could go maybe one more division. My mouse, I'm sorry. Forgive me. But we can make that maybe a little bit longer, the teeniest little bit. Ooh, I like that. Okay, so here is my sound. And I think these beginning ones could be maybe a little bit long. Maybe this one could be a little bit shorter. And these, I feel like, need to connect to each other. They need to be a much longer sound. Now I'll display this full region. Okay, there is one more part here before we make a loop, and that is that we're going to add some A's and some C's. And if we look back at the instrument here, the piano, we're going to go and a four and. So on the tail end of beat 3, on the end of 3, we're going to go on A1 and C2. A, C, A, C, A, A, C, A, C, A, and then it'll land on what will eventually be our loop. So we're going to locate in the piano roll the and of 3. So I don't know if you can see up at my top here, my ruler actually has 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. So the and of 3 is going to be halfway between those right there. And we're going to write in an A. Now on the piano you can see that's right there, but you can also see that there are lighter regions and darker regions here to represent the white keys and the black keys on the piano. And so we want this to be a 16th note in length, and also go A, C, and A, C, A, C, and it ends on an A on the and of 4, which should be right here. And so what I think that means is that I've misplaced this guy here. But let's listen. This measure 2, should be 1 E and a 2 and 3 and 4. 1 E and a 2 and a 4 E and. Let's listen. And 3 and a 4 E and. Good. Let's make this guy a little longer here. And I'm going to allow you to pause through this. There are 3 pitches in this second measure. C1, A1, and C2. And you can look at the shape for the beginning of measure 2. Right? If you need to, pause and come back to this. Don't be afraid to rewind. And because of the form of the song, because the first 4 measures are essentially the same chords over and over again, I'll be able to loop this out and get a bass part that lasts for 4 measures. It's missing our swing, so let's quantize this to a 16th note swing. We like that 11 o'clock position. Nice. Okay, we'll do more with this song later in terms of the first chorus here, but let's go back to the beginning. And this is going to be so quick and easy. Once you do the hard work on the bass part, if we were to listen to the original recording, we would realize that there's a layer of piano here. I'm going to just stick to the grand piano sound on this one. I am going to turn the volume down. There's 2 ways to do that. There's a volume slider or a knob here on the right-hand side of the instrument itself, but also in the mixer over here on the left. I'm just going to keep this kind of quiet. But I don't even need this instrument or the piano roll right now, because the bass part and the piano part are so similar that I can go into this bass part, and I'm going to copy this region. Actually, accidentally created a region here in the piano, but I'm going to copy this bass region. I'm going to move my cursor to the beginning of this measure, and I'm going to select the piano track with my mouse and paste. So I'm using Command V, but I think that's Control V on a Windows computer. And you'll hear that there's piano. Okay. The important thing here is that the piano part actually does not include that last A1 to C2 sequence. So what we can do is, if we click into the piano roll here, we can highlight those notes and delete them. And you'll be able to hear. By the way, the return key or the enter key on your keyboard brings the cursor back to the beginning to play. And if we play this, now I think that the bass is loud enough, but the piano is still too loud. I'm going to turn my piano down considerably. And let's just make sure that this is quantized, because for some reason it doesn't sound quantized to me. I'm just going to make sure that is what I want it to be. And they match. Great. Don't worry about a thing. We're going to get to the next section of the song in our next video here. But that is the bass and the piano instrumentation for the first 4 bars, or for the introduction.